Her only regret. Chapter 1. The Choices She Made. Sophia stood on the stage, the golden award gleaming in her hands. A wave of applause echoed through the grand hall, filled with the most influential people in the industry. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered her name, and the CEO of her company smiled proudly. She had done it. Years of relentless hard work, endless nights at the office, and sacrificed holidays had led to this moment. She should have felt fulfilled. But as she looked around, searching for a familiar face in the sea of strangers, she felt empty. Her assistant, Claire, rushed up to her as she stepped down from the stage. "Sophia, the press wants a statement. This is a huge win for you." Sophia nodded mechanically, offering a rehearsed smile as she faced the reporters. She answered their questions with polished ease, thanking her mentors and team. But in the back of her mind, something gnawed at her. A faint voice, one she had silenced for years. That night, Sophia sat alone in her penthouse, overlooking the city she had conquered. A chilled glass of wine rested in her hand, but she barely touched it. The city lights blinked like distant stars, but they couldn't fill the growing void inside her. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. "Aiden, Mom's health is getting worse. She asks for you every day." Sophia's fingers hovered over the keyboard. This wasn't the first time her younger brother had sent her a message like this. And, like every time before, she told herself she would visit soon. Just one more project, one more deal, one more milestone. She sighed, locking the screen. "I'll go next month." She had told herself the same thing last month, and the month before that. Memories she couldn't escape. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Sophia tossed and turned, her mind flooded with memories she had buried under deadlines and ambitions. She was 10 years old, sitting on the cold floor of their tiny apartment. Their mother, Elena, was hunched over an old sewing machine, her fingers working tirelessly. The sound of the needle piercing fabric filled the silence. "Mom, aren't you tired?" young Sophia had asked. Elena smiled, though dark circles lingered under her eyes. "Never too tired for you, my love. Just a little more work, and we'll have enough for your school fees." Sophia remembered the guilt that had burned in her chest. She had wanted a new backpack, but now she wished she had never asked. "I don't need a new bag," she had said. Her mother had simply kissed her forehead. "You deserve everything, Sophia. One day you'll be successful, and you won't have to worry about things like this." Sophia had promised that night, "I'll give you a better life, Mom. I swear." And she had. At least, she thought she had. The unopened gifts. The next morning, she sat at her desk, staring at the contract in front of her. It was another big deal, another step forward. But Aiden's message echoed in her mind. For the first time in years, she didn't ignore it. She booked the next flight home. The journey felt surreal. The city skyline faded behind her, replaced by quiet roads and familiar streets. When the cab pulled up in front of her childhood home, a wave of nostalgia and unease washed over her. The house looked smaller than she remembered. Aiden opened the door. His eyes, usually filled with warmth, were distant. "You finally came," he said. Sophia smiled nervously. "Of course. How's Mom?" Aiden didn't answer right away. He stepped aside, letting her in. The house smelled the same. Old wood, faint traces of lavender, and something that made her heart ache. Then she saw them. The gifts she had sent over the years. Designer bags, expensive perfumes, jewelry, all neatly stacked in a corner. Still wrapped, unopened. She never wanted those, Aiden said quietly. Sophia swallowed the lump in her throat. Where is she? Aiden didn't speak. He just led her to the bedroom. The air was heavy, and when Sophia saw the empty bed, her world crumbled. She waited for you, Aiden whispered. His voice broke. She kept saying, Sophia will come. Tears blurred her vision. Her knees buckled, and she clutched the doorframe for support. She was too late. The one person who had sacrificed everything for her, who had believed in her before she believed in herself, was gone. And she had been too busy chasing success to say goodbye. That night, Sophia sat in her childhood room, surrounded by shadows of the past. She had given her mother a better life, but she had failed to give her what mattered most. Her only regret was realizing it too late. The house was filled with an eerie quiet, as though it had been holding its breath for years. The faint ticking of the clock on the wall seemed too loud in the stillness. Sophia sat on the edge of the old wooden chair, trying to remember the last time she had felt this lost. She stared at the framed photographs on the walls, snapshots of her childhood, the way things used to be before ambition had consumed her. One photo in particular caught her eye. It was taken during her high school graduation. Elena was standing behind her, beaming with pride, her arm around Sophia's shoulders. Sophia had looked so young back then, so full of dreams, her future bright with possibilities. It was hard to reconcile that image with the woman she had become, the woman who had spent the last decade prioritizing her career above all else. Aiden, sitting across from her, was silent. His eyes were red-rimmed, his exhaustion evident. He hadn't slept much since their mother's passing, and it was clear the weight of everything was starting to take its toll on him. I'm sorry, Aiden, Sophia whispered, finally breaking the silence. I should have been here. I should have done something differently. Aiden looked up, his gaze sharp yet weary. It's too late for apologies now, Sophia. She waited for you. Every day. She didn't care about your awards or how many zeros were in your bank account. She just wanted her daughter. His words cut through her like a sharp blade. They were the words she had always feared hearing, the truth she had spent years trying to avoid. I thought I could make her proud. I thought if I could just be successful, it would somehow make everything okay. I thought it would make her happy. Aiden let out a bitter laugh. She was already proud of you, Sophia. You didn't need to prove anything. What she wanted was you. All of you. Not the version of you that was always on the phone, always away on business trips. Not the woman who sent money but couldn't find time for a visit. Not the one who thought that things could replace love. Sophia winced, feeling the weight of his words settle on her chest. There was no escaping it now. The truth was out, raw and painful. Her mother had always given her everything, but in her quest to repay that love with success, Sophia had only taken more, leaving behind the one thing that truly mattered, her time, her presence, her heart. The next morning, Sophia woke up in her childhood room, the memories of the night before still fresh in her mind. The empty space beside her was a reminder of all she had lost. Her mother's absence wasn't just physical. It felt like an absence in her very soul, a void that couldn't be filled by anything she had achieved. Sophia stood and walked over to the window, looking out at the same street she had once played on as a child. The world felt different now, slower, quieter, and yet somehow more real. There was no escaping the overwhelming sense of regret that clung to her, no way to rewind time and fix the mistakes she had made. Her phone buzzed again, pulling her from her thoughts. She checked the message and her heart sank. The board meeting is in an hour. They need you to sign off on the new merger. Sophia stared at the message for a long moment. The world outside her window seemed so peaceful, but her phone was reminding her that her life was anything but. With a sigh, she turned away from the window, walking back to the desk where her laptop sat open, ready for the next set of demands. But as her fingers hovered over the keyboard, a strange sense of disconnect washed over her. The emails, the deals, the mergers, they no longer felt important. They no longer felt like the answer. For the first time in years, Sophia allowed herself to imagine a different life. One where she was more than just a name on a corporate ledger. One where her success wasn't measured by numbers on a spreadsheet, but by the people she loved and the time she spent with them. The phone buzzed again, but this time, Sophia didn't pick it up. Instead, she closed the laptop with a deliberate snap. She wasn't ready to dive back into that world just yet. For the first time in a long time, she needed to process the weight of her choices. The day passed slowly, and by the time the sun began to set, Sophia found herself at the kitchen table, staring at the half-empty plate in front of her. She hadn't eaten much, but it wasn't hunger that kept her sitting there. It was the absence of something she could no longer ignore. Sophia's thoughts kept circling back to her mother, the woman who had always believed in her, even when Sophia hadn't believed in herself. Elena had sacrificed everything for her children. She had worked tirelessly, often at the cost of her own well-being, to give them a chance at a better life. And yet, Sophia had failed her. Why didn't I see it sooner? Sophia whispered aloud to the empty room. Why did I think that success would fix everything? The harsh truth echoed back to her. Success couldn't replace love. It couldn't replace the moments that truly mattered. The quiet mornings spent with family, the laughter shared over dinner, the simple joy of just being present. Sophia picked up her phone and dialed Aiden's number. It rang several times before he picked up. "Hey," she said, her voice soft. "I need to make it right, Aiden. I don't know how, but I need to." Aiden was silent for a moment before speaking. "You can't change the past, Sophia, but you can start with the future, and you can start with the people who are still here." Sophia's heart clenched. "I know. I just wish I hadn't waited so long." "Don't waste any more time, Sophia. You still have a chance. Don't let it slip away." As the days passed, Sophia found herself caught between the remnants of her old life and the emerging understanding of what truly mattered. She had come back home to her childhood, trying to find pieces of the person she had once been, the person who still believed in simple joys, in family, and in love. She made several trips to the cemetery, each time with flowers in hand, trying to make peace with the fact that her mother was gone. But each visit also brought a quiet understanding. Elena was still with her, not in the way she had once imagined, but in every choice she would make moving forward. It was a bond that no amount of success or distance could sever. On one of those visits, Sophia sat by her mother's grave, the sun setting behind her, casting a soft golden glow on the tombstone. She could almost hear her mother's voice, as gentle as ever, reminding her, "You deserve everything, Sophia, but you need to remember what's important." Sophia placed the bouquet of daisies beside the grave, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against the cool stone. She whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'll make sure I never forget again." There was no miracle moment, no grand gesture that could undo the years lost, but Sophia knew she could still change the course of her life. It wasn't about climbing to the top of the corporate ladder anymore. It was about building something real: relationships, love, and presence. Her mother had always said that happiness wasn't about the things you could buy, but the time you spent with the ones who mattered. It was time Sophia was ready to reclaim, one small step at a time. And as she stood up and walked away from the grave, Sophia felt something she hadn't felt in years: a sense of peace. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she would honor her mother's memory, not by chasing success, but by choosing what truly mattered. Chapter 2: The Moment of Realization. The next morning, Sophia woke with a weight in her chest that hadn't been there the night before. The silence in her childhood home felt oppressive. The same silence that had once been comforting now felt like a constant reminder of everything she had lost. She hadn't realized how much time she had spent away from this place, and how much had changed in her absence. She stood by the window for a while, staring out at the quiet street. The world outside seemed peaceful, almost unchanged, but she knew that she was no longer the same person who had left it behind years ago. She was different now, haunted by regret, yet determined to find a way forward. Sophia had avoided her emotions for so long, distracting herself with work, with accolades, with everything that she thought would fill the void. But now, as she stood in the place that had shaped her, she realized how foolish she had been. It wasn't the recognition, the awards, or the success that mattered. It was the people who loved you. And she had been blind to that truth. She had always been ambitious, driven by the idea of making her mother proud, of escaping the poverty and hardships they had faced. But she had misunderstood what that truly meant. Success wasn't just about financial stability. It wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder or earning accolades. Success was about love, about showing up for the people who mattered, about being present. Sophia turned away from the window and walked into the living room where Aidan was sitting looking through some old family albums. He looked up as she entered, his face softening for a moment before returning to its usual stoic expression. "I've been going through some old photos," Aidan said quietly, holding up a picture of their mother from a family vacation they had taken years ago. "She was always so proud of you, you know. Even when you were too busy to come home, she never stopped talking about how well you were doing." Sophia felt the lump in her throat grow larger as she sat beside her brother. He wasn't angry with her anymore. He was tired of waiting for her to come back, tired of holding on to the hope that one day she would realize what was important. "I should have been here," Sophia whispered, her voice cracking. "I should have made time for her. She always made time for me. And I I just kept making excuses. Aiden didn't say anything. He just handed her the album, letting her look through the pictures of their childhood, the laughter, the joy, the warmth of a family that had been torn apart by her absence. The more she looked, the more it hurt. Every photo felt like a piece of her life that she had abandoned in pursuit of something she thought would fulfill her. "Do you think she would forgive me?" Sophia asked quietly, her eyes still fixed on the pictures. Aiden sighed, putting the album down. "I don't know, Sophia. I think she would have wanted you to forgive yourself. But that's the hardest part, isn't it? Forgiving yourself for all the things you couldn't control." Sophia nodded, but the pain was still there, deep inside her. She had never been good at forgiving herself. She had always pushed through, driven by guilt and ambition, always telling herself she would make things right. But time had passed, and it was too late for that. Her mother was gone, and the chance to make things right had slipped through her fingers. "Do you want to talk about what happened?" Aiden asked gently, his voice soft. Sophia shook her head, wiping away a stray tear. "I don't know what to say. I don't know if there's anything I can say. I can't change it." "No," Aiden said quietly, "but you can change what comes next." Sophia looked up, meeting his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Aiden continued, "you can start making up for it. You can be here for the people who are still here. You can choose to be a part of our lives, to show up when it matters, to make sure the next chapter of your life is one you can be proud of." Sophia let his words sink in. The realization was gradual but undeniable. She couldn't undo the past, but she could take control of the future. It wasn't too late to make amends with the people she had hurt, to make things right with the family that had always been there for her. She didn't know what that would look like yet, but she knew she had to start somewhere. The next few days were a blur of emotion and reflection for Sophia. She found herself reaching out to friends and family members she had lost touch with over the years, reconnecting with people who had once been close to her. It was awkward at first, but the more she reached out, the more she realized how much she had missed. She called Claire, her assistant, asking her to clear her calendar for the week. "I'm taking a break," Sophia told her, her voice firm. "I need to figure things out." Claire hesitated before responding. "Are you sure this is a good idea, Sophia? You have a lot of projects on your plate right now. The company can't run without you." Sophia took a deep breath. "It can wait. I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when I know it's not. I need time to figure out who I am without all the titles and the numbers and the deals. I need to remember what I've been running from." Claire was silent for a moment before responding. "Okay, I'll handle things here. Just take care of yourself." For the first time in years, Sophia felt a sense of relief. It wasn't easy to walk away from everything she had worked so hard for, but she knew it was necessary. She needed to slow down and take stock of her life, to find the balance she had neglected for so long. That afternoon, Sophia went to a nearby park, sitting on a bench and watching families walk by. Parents pushed strollers, children ran and played, and couples strolled hand in hand. It was simple, but it was everything she had been missing. Sophia realized that for all the money and success she had accumulated, she had never truly lived. She had been too focused on the next goal, the next achievement, the next promotion, to appreciate the life she already had. But now, as she sat on that bench, she realized that this moment, this simplicity, was what life was really about. Sophia's journey wasn't over, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was finally on the right path. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be many challenges ahead, but she knew she had taken the first step. She had faced the truth, and now she could begin to rebuild. It was time to stop running from the things that mattered most. The road to redemption. The days that followed Sophia's realization were filled with a mixture of hesitation and determination. The world outside her childhood home had never seemed so large, and yet she felt small and unsure, like a child just learning to walk again. She had spent years avoiding the things that mattered most, so it wasn't easy to face them now, but she was committed to trying. Her first call was to Aiden. It felt strange at first, picking up the phone and dialing his number, as if reaching out was some kind of acknowledgement of her own inadequacy. But when he answered, there was no judgment in his voice, only a quiet understanding. "Are you doing okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but laced with concern. Sophia took a deep breath. I'm trying to be better, Aiden. I can't fix everything, but I want to be here for you, for us." He was silent for a moment, and when he spoke again, there was a warmth in his voice. "We're in this together, Sophia. You don't have to do it alone." She felt the tightness in her chest loosen. It wasn't going to be easy, but with Aiden's support, she could find her way back. The next few days were spent making phone calls, sending messages, and taking small steps toward reconnecting with the people she had left behind. There were friends she had distanced herself from, colleagues who had once been her confidants, and even distant relatives who had tried reaching out to her over the years. She had built walls around herself, convinced that she didn't need anyone else to succeed. But now she saw how those walls had isolated her. One of the first calls she made was to Claire, her assistant. For years, Claire had been her right hand, organizing her life, managing her schedule, and handling the endless stream of emails. Sophia realized now how much Claire had sacrificed to help her build the empire she had. "Claire, I know I haven't been the easiest person to work with. I've been consumed by work, and I haven't taken the time to appreciate everything you've done for me," Sophia said, her voice filled with sincerity. There was a long pause on the other end before Claire responded, her tone soft but hesitant. "Sophia, you've always been driven. I understand. But I've also seen how much you've struggled, how much you've given up for success. I just want you to be happy." Sophia's heart swelled with gratitude. She hadn't realized how much Claire had quietly carried her burdens. "Thank you, Claire, for everything. I've made a decision to take a break from work for a while. I need to rediscover what really matters to me, and that means stepping back." There was a brief silence before Claire replied, "I think that's a good decision. Take the time you need. We'll be here when you're ready." Sophia smiled softly, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. It was hard to let go of the life she had built, but it was necessary. She needed to create space for the people who cared about her, to allow them to become part of her life once again. The following week, Sophia spent most of her time at her mother's house, organizing old family photos and mementos, reconnecting with the memories she had long neglected. There was something cathartic about going through the remnants of her past, the joy and laughter captured in the photographs, the notes and letters her mother had kept over the years. Each item she touched seemed to bring her closer to the person she had once been, the girl who believed in family above all else. One afternoon, as Sophia sat at the kitchen table going through an old photo album, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. Hesitantly, she answered. "Hello? Sophia? It's Elena," the voice on the other end said. And for a moment, Sophia thought her heart had stopped. She hadn't heard from Elena in years. They had once been inseparable, but as Sophia's world became more consumed with her work, their friendship faded into the background. "Elena?" Sophia said, her voice trembling. "Is everything okay? I heard about your mother," Elena said, her voice soft but filled with concern. "I just wanted to check in on you. How are you holding up?" Sophia closed her eyes, feeling a lump form in her throat. "I don't know. It's been hard. I've been feeling like I've lost everything, and I don't know how to move forward." There was a pause before Elena spoke again. "Sophia, I know things have been difficult, but I want you to remember that it's never too late to make things right. You're stronger than you think. You just need to take it one step at a time." Sophia's chest tightened. Elena had always been the one person who knew how to bring comfort when words felt insufficient. She had a way of making everything seem possible, of reminding Sophia of the strength she didn't even know she had. "I've made mistakes, Elena," Sophia admitted, her voice breaking. "I've pushed everyone away, and now I'm trying to figure out how to fix it." "You don't have to do it all at once," Elena said gently. "Start small, reconnect, take time for yourself. You can rebuild, Sophia. I believe in you." Sophia felt a glimmer of hope, a spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe it was possible to rebuild, to find her way back to the person she was meant to be. Later that week, Sophia made her way to the local park, where she and Elena had spent countless afternoons when they were younger. The park had changed over the years, but it still felt familiar. Sophia sat on the bench where she had once shared so many quiet moments with her best friend, watching the world go by. As she sat there, her phone buzzed again. It was a text from Aiden. "Mom would have been proud of you. I know she's still with us, in the choices we make and the lives we build." Sophia's eyes welled with tears as she read the message. Aiden had always known how to speak directly to her heart, and in that moment she felt the weight of her mother's love surrounding her once again. She wasn't alone. She wasn't the same person she had been, but that didn't mean she couldn't change, that she couldn't become someone worthy of the love and support that had always been there for her. She stood up from the bench and took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs. She had a long way to go, but she was ready to take the first steps. It was time to stop hiding from her past, from the mistakes she had made. It was time to embrace the future. In the days that followed, Sophia focused on small, deliberate actions. She spent time with Aiden, rebuilding their bond and talking through the things they had lost. She made plans to meet with old friends, apologizing for her absence and explaining that she wanted to be present again. And slowly she began to rediscover a sense of peace that had long eluded her. One evening, as she sat in her mother's house, sipping a cup of tea and watching the sun set over the horizon, Sophia realized something profound. She wasn't perfect. She had made mistakes, but she was trying. She was choosing to be better, to live a life filled with purpose and love. And that, in itself, was enough. As the days turned into weeks, Sophia's transformation was evident, not in grand gestures or achievements, but in the quiet moments of connection, of making space for the people she had once neglected. She was no longer running from the truth. She was facing it head on, knowing that redemption wasn't something you earned overnight. It was something you worked for, one step at a time. As we reach the end of Sophia's journey, we're reminded that redemption is not an overnight process. It's a choice, one that takes time, patience, and courage to confront the past. But just like Sophia, we all have the power to rebuild, to reconnect, and to create a life that truly matters. If Sophia's story resonated with you, remember that it's never too late to take a step back and reflect on the things that truly matter in life. Sometimes all it takes is one small change to begin a new chapter. Thank you for watching this story. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that inspire and reflect the power of change. And remember, you're never alone on your journey. No matter where you are, there's always the chance to make things right. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.